Welcome to The Fountain with Ellie Thomas. The fountain is an image that I use in my work often to speak of our multidimensionality, to connect with the life, the living water flowing within us through mind, body, spirit, heart, and all. This show is a place where we explore it all, where we tap into wisdom that has surfaced through pain and joy and the fullness of our journeys. This podcast is a place to come and remember, to sink back into the living water that flows within you and to be guided back to your fountain, your fullness, your wholeness, and how to be with that as we navigate living as divine humans in this wild, wild world and this wild, wild journey. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in together and be refreshed and consoled by the water that wants to flow through. Welcome back to the fountain. I hope you're having a great week so far. Let's just take a breath together. Letting our breath bring us back to this moment wherever our heads and hearts are, however connected or disconnected we are from our bodies. Just invite you to take a big inhale and a sigh. And if you have a moment to pause and close your eyes, and if not, just continuing to take pause within yourself while you continue to move or drive. Just taking a moment to listen inward, to feel yourself here. To feel into your belly space, anything you might be holding here, any places of big contraction in your abdomen, or places of really lovely expansion. And bringing your focus to your heart space. Just taking a moment to reconnect and feel your heartbeat. Feeling your butt or the bottom of your feet touching whatever they're touching, grounding you into this moment. And one more inhale to sigh when you're ready. It feels good to do that. I have been stirring with so many things inside and wanting to channel the message for today into a place of concise understanding and offering. And it took me a few days. This weekend, we spent some time at my dad's house, and part of that process was, for me, it's always a process of returning home to my childhood home and coming in as I am now, every time a little bit different, and revisiting the places and the spaces that I had so many things happening in my younger years and my younger body, and coming in with understanding and love and compassion and forgiveness and wisdom and awareness, and also coming in just very embodied in who I am now, and continuing to let the energy of my now revisit and nurture the spaces and the energy of my younger Ellies, my many, many, many little me's inside of me. And part of this weekend was also going through some of my mom's things. And I have been mentally ready to do that for a long time. But wow, nothing really can prepare you for each step of the journey of going through the process of releasing things that were of a loved one. And there was so much to sit with after that. And thankfully, we were able to go on a swim afterwards, and I was able to take a shower, my dad's outdoor shower that he built, and feel refreshed and come home. And as soon as I got home that evening, I felt really good and open, and it took me a while the next day to kind of find my flow again at home. And I could feel this place of contraction and resistance in me of just wanting to avoid the more grief. Sometimes it's tiring, and there's a desire to just take a break. And sometimes all I need is that. And so I gave myself that break. But then yesterday was also just feeling not quite fully in myself again. And as I went to yoga this morning, the teacher asked us at the beginning of class, why do you do yoga? Why do you come to class? Why do you incorporate yoga into your life? Why do you take space and to be here in your life? And there's so many reasons I've done yoga over the years, but in the past few years, really coming back to myself and coming back to my connection of my body with my breath and my heart, and letting my mind have its space but not be in control, has been a really big focus and has been really great nourishment for me. And today there was this little whisper that came as an answer that said, oh, you come to open to your fullness. You've come today to open to your fullness. And as soon as I heard it, I went, oh yes, that's the podcast for this week. I'm taking an extended silence because just like probably every episode of the show will have, open to your fullness carries a beautiful energy. It's like as I say it, there's this like relief that moves from my mind space down my face, down my throat, over my heart space, and like releases my belly and allows me to breathe a little bit deeper. So feel what that feels like for you, just even the words. I invite you to open to your fullness. For years and years, and not even that long ago, I glorified fullness. And it's very glorified in our culture. Fullness is our light, our brightness. It's seen as, well, that's how it's seen at least. It's seen as our best self, and everything that modern day personal growth puts out there. The best version of you. And that might be part of your fullness, but I think our fullness is way, way, way bigger than that. Our fullness incorporates our pain, our joy, our creativity, our exhaustion, our energy, our sadness, our laughter. Our fullness is all of us. And there so often isn't space for all of us. Or at least we haven't felt like it's been safe to be all of us. And a huge part of my inner and outer work, first starting with myself and then sharing with others, has been creating the safety to bring all of me. To let all of me be here. And it is a work in progress and probably will be for the rest of my life. But it's so much more accessible and here and embodied now. And it requires trust that there's space in my relationships, space in my relationship with myself, that I won't self-abandon. That there's space in my work for my fullness, my messiness, my moments of imperfection, just as much as the times where I have it all connecting and clicking and where I'm on a high of delicious flow. And fullness and flow are really the word is not simultaneous. They're really interchangeable for me. And I guess they're happening simultaneous. The more I resist pieces of my fullness, therefore the more I'm not allowing my fullness, the harder it is to be in flow. So often, especially if we've been in a hard season and we're beginning to feel quote unquote better and feel more of our other parts of ourselves that aren't our pain body kind of coming back and updating and alive again, we can be really afraid of our fullness. We can be really afraid of the pain that still exists, that's still there. We can really resist letting that be part of where we're going, because it doesn't feel great to have moved through those seasons, right? It can feel dark. There's darkness within us. There's a lot of desire to feel all of ourselves. And when we're in a dark place, feeling all of ourselves means also being able to feel our light again and our connection and the greater aspects of ourselves that do feel not only lighter inside of us, but that help us shine. And however that looks, we can accidentally grasp onto the light and really want to push the not so light away. And when we do that, I've just come, I weave in and out of this and I weave in and out of pieces of this that are so much smaller than what they used to be. It happens within a 24-hour span instead of a 4-month span or more. And it's really a practice for me of noticing when I'm cutting part of myself off, or when I'm cutting myself off to my fullness by not wanting to go somewhere like this return home and not wanting to be with the grief more because I'm just tired. And those signals in my body, I've become really attuned to what they are, and each person's are different, but it's this exploration of like, where am I contracting? Where am I tightening? Where is there gripping? Resistance and grasping, really like a similar energy. Where is that happening in me? In my energy? And our energy ends up corresponding to our physical body. And depending on the moment and the day, it can take some time and some patience and some love to just place my hand in those places and breathe into that space and begin to invite the fullness that I'm trying to cut off there back. And why do we cut off our fullness? Because it's scary. It feels unsafe to our minds. It feels dangerous. We have this idea that, and we've been taught that it threatens our light, or it threatens the other parts of our life. And there are some times where maybe when we're first beginning to travel into these kind of deeper, somewhat darker inner places and open to these places, it might be that is a season where there's more interaction with that than there is with our light. Not always. And especially not if you have someone holding you and guiding you and helping you reconnect with your light always, every week, no matter what you're moving through in between. But over time with practice, we begin to see how when we open to those places, we allow in more flow with ourselves, more flow with our light, more flow between the light and dark, more flow between, dark is maybe a hard word, shadow is the more common word, flow between our lightness and our brilliance and our shadow. And it's almost like without that tight constriction, there's just so much more space for our energy to move and to start to expand and push the borders of who we were before, come up against our edges, and then our edges expand again. And when we have the ability to flow back and forth and to flow with all of ourselves, when we are open to our fullness and have space in ourselves and in our life to be with our fullness, we have access to so much more of our light than we do when we're constricting and blocking it. There's so many different definitions of flow and explorations of flow. And flow to me is really this: opening to my fullness, flowing with my fullness, saying, oh, hey, to the parts of myself that I love and I love interacting with and being in, and to the parts of myself that aren't quite as fun, but I have grown to have deep respect and reverence for. As I've allowed more space to open to my fullness in my life, and I've learned to do that over the past many years, ebbing and flowing with the seasons of what that's looked like and what I've needed to be able to open to that, I'm just so much more here. So much more present. So much more embodied and able to feel the depths of the human experience to all layers and levels. This is really a practice, and it's something that I believe we'll be dancing with for the rest of our lives if we choose to consciously dance with our fullness. And just like in the last episode, acceptance of the parts of ourselves that we're resisting and not wanting is such a big part of this. I think we could do a whole masterclass on acceptance. Maybe that will be a theme for a community workshop or something soon. Embodied acceptance, for me, allows and requires that I sit with the pain that are harbored in the pieces of me that I've been resisting or pushing away, in order to reintegrate and invite them back in order to say hello, in order to call them back into my space and to let them be part of the flow of my fullness. I have to allow space and practice for grief and for my shadow and for the voices that I wish weren't there. So today is about opening to our fullness. Let's do just a few moments of just practice again, coming back to any place where we're contracting, and just lovingly, gently, and with compassion, Just starting to soften, using your breath to travel to any places that are calling to you, just using kind of your sensing and noticing, oh, this is a place I've really pushed away, or I've really not wanted to go. I've really kept myself from engaging with recently or always. And maybe all you can do today is crack the door open a tiny, tiny bit, like a sliver, to begin to become comfortable very slowly with visiting that part of you. If we open the door too quick, if we kind of bring that in too quick, it can be really jarring for our system. This is not a one and done, and does not need to be a one and done. This is a moment of just opening a tiny bit more. So if you have a door open somewhere and you want to just open it a tiny bit more, just let your breath do that. If you don't have the door open and you just want to first put your hand on the handle, and then maybe if you're ready, crack it open and just let a little bit of that part of you be with you. You can do that. It's also totally fine if today your recognition is, yeah, there's lots of places I've been pushing away. Lots of places I don't want to be with because I'm afraid that they will impede on my light, or I don't know, it's just scary. And I don't like them. Sometimes just that recognition is all that's needed to create the softening for the next step. And here, let whatever wants to be felt and seen just arise. There might be emotion, there likely is emotion. More often than not, what's tucked away is emotion that has not felt safe to release. And there's a whole nother conversation here about the power of understanding emotion as energy, and even more specifically, the power of allowing our emotions to move through, not only because we need to let them move through, but also because of the incredible space that they create in us once they have moved through. That stillness, that return to self that we're invited into once we let something go. Just take a moment to observe, notice, feel, breathe. As you begin to feel all of the parts of you that are active in here, and all of the parts of you that maybe have been pushed away or haven't been invited in today, just letting it all be and asking, what would be really supportive of my fullness today? What would support this opening? What would allow me to lovingly be in my fullness? What would it look like to trust that even just a tiny, tiny bit that that all the pieces of me are welcome. What would it be like to be in curiosity and exploration of what is available to you and what comes online in your experience of life by letting a little bit more of you be here too? And I'll let you be with all of you, be with this invitation. If it helps to put on a song, just let yourself move with your fullness before you move on to the rest of your day. I highly recommend that. It's one of my favorite ways to just come back and really be in like invitation and acknowledgement and awareness and acceptance of all of me, is to put on a song and just let my body move to it the way it wants to. Sometimes I do this in the car, sometimes I do it in the kitchen, sometimes I do it just even laying on the ground. And I don't need to move it all from my head, just letting my heart and my body begin to move with the rhythm and awaken whatever it needs and wants to awaken in me, like speaks to my system on a whole nother level. If that calls to you, you can try that. I also made an awesome playlist that I love called Fountain Flow, celebrating the birth of this podcast. And I'll put that link in the show notes. The first songs are softer and slower, and then it builds up in energy over time. But it's just been a really connective and fun way to move with myself in this season. So I'll offer that to you as well. And I'd love to hear how this lands for you, how opening even the most tiniest of bit to your fullness today opens or shifts anything in your experience. And I'll be back with you more soon. Thank you for being part of the Fountain Flow. Thank you so much for listening to The Fountain. Please take a moment to rate and review the show and to send it along to a friend that comes to heart or mind. I'd also love to hear what came up for you and your experience listening to the most recent episodes. So reach out via your podcast app or send me an email. And if you'd like to book your first session or explore working together more, find me at ellieflow.com.